Well, Paul, first and foremost, welcome to Falkirk. How does it feel to be the new head coach?
Exciting. Really looking forward to it. It's a massive football club with huge potential, and to be given this opportunity, I'm extremely grateful for that, and really looking forward to getting started.
Obviously, you were at a very big club and you had a fairly secure job. What was it about the Falkirk position that made you want to apply?
Firstly, I've always been keen to get back into management. Obviously, I had my spell with Arbroath part-time, and it was going to take a proper full-time football club to tempt my way. When the job became available, it was a no-brainer to put my CV in. I think the potential the club's got. I think I mentioned at interview stage that it is a sleeping giant, and we need to get the club going again. And just the fact the stature of the club alone was too tempting not to at least try and put my name in the mix and see where I went with that. So firstly, the club itself and the stature of the club was the first port of call to get that opportunity. The fact that it's obviously full time for me, being in a full time job, yes, it's secure, but I never ever wanted to sit and be comfortable in a job I'm in. I've always had ambition, and I feel I'm in a place now where hopefully I can fulfil that ambition.
And how did you, or rather when did you know that the kind of move was going to happen? Because obviously the fans, it's always a nervous wait when they're waiting for any new manager to be announced.
Yeah, I mean, I think the club, and speaking to the board and Gary, obviously sporting director, and the way they went through that process, I thought was real diligence in what they were doing. So it probably went on a little longer than the fans would have liked, but from a club point of view, I think they had to make sure they'd done everything right. And looking from the outside in, it certainly seems they'd done that. So yeah, the timescale was probably a bit longer than I would have liked as well, because I would have liked some security on that and know what was happening. But the club went through the procedure excellently and thoroughly. So eventually, the outcome that I wanted certainly was the one that I looked for, and I was pleased that it's happened, like I say.
In terms of the kind of Falkirk fans that we mentioned there, first and foremost, what can they expect from your time at the club?
Hopefully success first and foremost. I think I've said it already that it is a sleeping giant, and the club's been in League One for too long now. So firstly, it would be ideal to get out of League One and into the Championship first and foremost. A brand of football that I hope is pleasing on the eye. Certainly that's the aim, is to put a team out on the pitch that's forward thinking, play at a high intensity, hard working. That's certainly the aim, and I know it's not always easy, but as soon as we get on the pitch, and that's what we'll look to do, we'll look to put a team out that'll be, like I say, pleasing on the eye, but will work hard. They'll play with a decent intensity, and hopefully a real forward-thinking team that'll hopefully score goals, and within a decent structure as well, obviously.
We know that the Falkirk fans, historically, they're never a fan of kind of one up front or defensive football. But from everything you've just said there, is it fair to say that the emphasis will be, I think as you alluded to before, very much on attacking football?
That's the plan. I mean, games change week to week, and obviously we'll look at the opposition thoroughly from game to game, and shape and things may need tweaked here and there. But certainly my upbringing, both as a player and now as a coach, has always been to play a brand of football that's hopefully enjoyable, and that is certainly my main aim coming into the club, is to put that on the pitch.
You've had the chance now to meet the board, the staff, have a look around the stadium and the facilities. What's your initial impressions?
It's incredible. It really is. I think I've brought my daughter here today, and she was used to my time at Arbroath, and with the greatest of respect to Arbroath, I think she thought she was coming to a similar type stadium. But as soon as she walked in, she was quite in awe of the stadium. I was the same on Thursday when I came in. I've obviously been here in a coaching capacity with the development squad at Aberdeen. But when you see the gym, the whole infrastructure of the club, speaking to the new board, obviously I'm their first appointment now, so everything they're saying is all aimed towards success, and from them downwards, I think we all have to buy into that as quick as we can, and I'm hopefully going to be a huge part of that. So it's a massive club with huge potential, which I spoke about already. It's just about us now trying to fulfil that potential as quick as we can.
You're joining at a difficult time. There's no getting away from that. You're about to embark on our third season in League One now. How do you turn things around with of course the aim of promotion and getting out of League One?
Well, again, it's recruitment comes into that now, because obviously the squad's a little tight and there's been a turnaround of players within the close season. So between myself and the board and Gary, obviously the sporting director, we'll get our heads together. Already we've brought a couple in. There's a couple more imminent to come into the club as well. So we're building that, obviously, and hopefully come pre-season we'll have a decent core squad to compete in the division and beyond that, hopefully. So that's the plan initially, and then from my point of view it's just implementing what I want as a coach, and on the pitch hopefully that will bear fruit going forward.
Yeah, I mean, you're not coming into this role as a rookie. You've already mentioned your time as Arbroath as player manager, and you won their first trophy in their history, I believe, during that time. And then, of course, you've spent 7 years up at Pittodrie working with the development squad, and then the last few years with the first team. So between your time at Arbroath and up in Aberdeen, what do you think you've learned from those roles that you can bring to the Falkirk role?
I think my time at Arbroath, I was probably very wet behind the ears. Like you say, I was a player when I first went in terms of managing a football club. I obviously learnt the ins and outs of that, how to deal with a board, how to deal with budget. So all that was a learning process at Arbroath. Going into Aberdeen, I know you say that I've been with the first team the last 2 or 3 years, but I've actually been involved all my time there in terms of match days. So every match day for 7 years I've been involved, and arguably one of the best managers in Scotland, in my opinion. So you're always learning on the job, day to day with that. I mean, we've played European football for the last 7 seasons as well, so you're picking up different cultures and different ways how to play the game. So in terms of experience, I think the time's right for me to come into the club, to be a head coach. And obviously I had that interim period for 5 weeks at Aberdeen, and that kind of just cemented for me that I am ready to go. So again, I'm really excited with the opportunity, and I think I've got more than enough tools to cope with the job in hand now.
Speaking of the job in hand at the moment, what targets, if any, do you set yourself in this role?
Well, the obvious one is getting out of League One. I know that will be difficult. It's a tough league. That was proven last year when the club were in such a strong position and unfortunately fell away at the last wee bit of the season. So it will be difficult, but I think everyone has to buy into that aim, and that's what we all have to drive for. Again, from top to bottom, we all have to create a culture that we know that's where we need to be at the Championship. And like I say, that's without being disrespectful to other clubs, but as Falkirk Football Club, that needs to be our main aim.
There's obviously been quite a turnover in the playing squad from last season. You mentioned a moment ago it was a bit tight on the squad side at the moment, and there's potentially more outgoing and incoming. Is there anything you can share with the supporters on that front just now?
Well, we're constantly working. Myself and Gary are constantly together and putting our heads together. As a club, again, in terms of the structure and everything, they're building a new infrastructure, and part of that is recruitment. So we're looking at player profiling and how that fits the club. Fortunately, our interview process, that player profile suited the type of player that I look at and the type of way I want to play through both data analysis with Gary and Liam. Have put all that in place. So we've got a list of players that we've looked at. I've added to that list. I maybe took a couple off that list. So the process of that is well ahead of me coming in the club anyway. We now just sit down and see what's best for the club in terms of that profile and what that player looks like. Obviously, we've announced a couple with Stevie coming in, and players that we've got also due to agree contracts. So we're well on the way to building a squad that will hopefully, like I say, compete in the division.
continuing with recruitment, the club obviously has a new model of recruitment this season. You mentioned you're working closely with Gary Holt. For those not familiar with the system, can you tell us a bit more about how that works? And specifically, I guess the obvious question the fans will have is, do you get the final say on these transfers that are lined up and anyone else in future?
Obviously, the club had to move earlier than a head coach coming in, so there was pre-contracts and things in place, which is understandable. Otherwise the club get left behind, and we're then short on players and we're losing out to arguably clubs that we're in the market with. So obviously there was processes in place already, which is totally understandable, and I understand that. But moving forward now, we will have that conversation, me and Gary. We will look at players. And yes, I need to be comfortable working with those players, so ultimately it'll be me that will have the final say on that going forward now. In terms of that sporting director role, I guess it probably is pretty unusual at this level. I'm fortunate I've just finished my pro licence, and a large part of it is based on those workings and can you work with a sporting director. From my point of view, I actually think it's a very good thing. It takes a lot of probably pressures away for a manager who deals day to day with contracts and everything, and Gary will simply take that pressure away from me, and I can concentrate on what's needed on the pitch more than dealing with agents, dealing with all the proverbial that comes with these things at certain times. So basically Gary will do the horrible side of it, and I'll get to enjoy the stuff on the pitch. So it certainly takes a lot of pressure off a head coach, having that go between the board and the pitch.
And I guess having that support as well, because from what you're saying, you basically say, there's a striker, I like the look of him, Gary, go and deal with it, basically.
Yeah, I think between the two years, Liam will be a big part of that as well, because he obviously covers all the analysis of the players and sets up probably the profiling of the players. So between the 3 years, we'll do all we can to make sure we bring the right types into the club, and hopefully going forward, like I say, there will be a success coming in here.
In terms of that and bringing players in, would you say you're looking for a more experienced squad to get out of League One? Would you prefer a younger, maybe hungry player, or is it that the old cliche of, well, you absolutely have to have a blend?
Probably the old cliche. I do think you need that blend. I think already the right types are coming in. I think a club of our size has to be looking at sellable assets as well. Obviously we've not had the academy in recent years, so you've lost that conveyor belt, which was huge to the club in years gone by, and churning out players constantly to get into the first team here. So I think we're obviously in the process of bringing that back as well at academy level, albeit it's very early, it's in its infancy, but maybe 4 or 5 years we'll hopefully start reaping the benefits of a good academy again, which is vital for the club. So it's important we do get a blend. There's obviously good experience in the club already with Paul Dixon and Gary Miller, who are massive influences on the younger ones around the place, and they'll have a huge part to play in driving this culture forward, speaking to them already. So we know they'll have that part to play. So we know already we've got that experience between they two. And if we need to add to that to help younger ones, then so be it. But it will definitely need that blend to bring success.
You're obviously not expected to do all this single-handedly. You'll be looking at, I'm guessing, appointing an assistant manager to work alongside you. Are you of a mind to go for somebody more experienced, a slightly older head, let's say, or would you be tempted to go down the route of even at the opposite end of the scale, even like a player assistant manager?
Again, I'm open. I do have 3 or 4 in mind that's in the forefront for me, that will be right for me, that I know them as people. I know what types they are. I know they'll be good for the club ultimately is the biggest thing. So that's ongoing, and I'll do all I can to make sure that's the right decision for me, because I think when you're working as close to someone as that day in, day out, it has to be the right decision. So as it stands, it's ongoing, but hopefully when that does happen, it'll be the best for both me and the club.
Looking forward to getting started then, especially hopefully next season we'll have some of the fans back as well. Yeah,
really hope that's the case. Obviously the COVID has been tough on everyone, and it's been difficult in all aspects of life, but for football fans that live and breathe really that they're Saturday to Saturday and they work to make sure they're coming through the gate on a Saturday, so to get them back into the stadium would be amazing, and as it stands it's looking like we're going in the right direction with that. So the fan base we have as well, if you get things right here and the backing you get from these fans, I know that from obviously playing against Falkirk over the years, that if you get this place going and get them on side, it'll be huge. It'll be a huge help for us. So for me to get these fans back in, the quicker we do that, the better. And within that, we still have to make sure we're entertaining them, and the quicker we can do that, hopefully they give us their backing and we can have that success again from here up to the fans, and their part in that will be vital going forward.
And just finally, Paul, speaking of the fans, and I do know how much they're missing it, and yet you're spot on with everything you've said there, but if you had to have a message for those fans who'll be sitting watching this at home for the season ahead, what would that be?
I think just give us a chance. I get that I'm probably relatively unknown to most of them, but I'm fresh, I'm forward thinking, and like I say, clubs I've been at in the past, I do try and put a team on the pitch that play with high intensity, that work hard and try and play a style that most people like to watch, not just our fans, but most people like to watch. And if they can buy into that, then hopefully I can get it right for them.
Here's what we do. Well, Paul, good luck in the role, and thanks for your time.
Thanks very much, I appreciate that.